you guys do all the time. But we also are starting to put some specificity behind it. And I think that's important too. So this industry will look very, very different 5 years from now than it does today. Our company will look very different. We have some thoughts, clearly, in terms of what that difference will be. Some of the things we haven't put into practice yet. Others are just in the discussion stage. But what's interesting to me and what I love about it is the fact that our company is not only open to this, but people are really saying, yeah, let's go and let's go fast. So, and also what's different for us is we know not everything we do is going to work. There will be business models that will be incredibly interesting and robust. And there'll be some things that we try that won't work. But that's okay, because if we don't try them, we'll never know. And that's also something that's not, doesn't come naturally to a big company, and certainly not to a big company that's been around for well over 100 years. So you're here at a great time. It's a time of amazing transition. It's also a time of great transition for our city. And those of you who've had a chance to explore Detroit, and certainly those of you who knew Detroit a few years ago, will be absolutely amazed. I mean, part of it, I would love to see this show in June, so you can all get out in the city and really experience what's going on, rather than be here in one of the coldest weeks of the year. But even still, what's happening in our city is really breathtaking. For someone who's lived here my entire life, I remember the riots in the 60s, and I remember the aftermath of the riots and what happened to the city, and both in terms of the services, people, the divisions that took place. It was a very tough place to be. We all loved it, but it was disappointing to those of us who did love it. The flip side now is occurring. We still have big issues in our city, we all know that. But the progress we're making is also really amazing. And for those of you who want to try great new restaurants, go to fun new bars, or interestingly, be part of a growing and very vibrant venture community, it's all here in Detroit. A number of years ago, I started my own venture capital fund here, Fontanellis Partners, in the mobility space. And when we launched it, no one even knew what the mobility space was, much less what we might invest in. And I must say there wasn't a whole lot of interest back then. I think people just thought, well, this is some crazy idea and good luck with it. Now, that also has been really fun. There's a network here in Detroit. We're well into our second fund. The interest is sky high. And the interesting thing is, Ford was instrumental in launching Techstars here. And so I go down and meet with the Techstars classes. And what's really been interesting is in the first class, none of those companies were originally from Michigan. But after being here for a year and having the Techstars incubation, a number of them said, this is where we'd like to be. There's a buzz and a vibe happening downtown that we haven't seen before. In fact, a couple of people have mentioned to me that it feels Detroit now in the venture community, and actually in the whole community, not the venture community, feels like Silicon Valley did 25 years ago. And I pushed a couple of people and said, what does that mean? And they said, it means that we feel like we're part of something that is going to be very cool. There's also a sense here that everybody's helping each other. Helping each other, whether it's a new restaurant that's opening, a new not-for-profit that is getting up and running, or a new venture that's getting up and running. The community is really rallying around, and everybody is sort of pitching in and helping everybody else, and that's really cool. So I think, we have a great history here in Detroit of being the Motor City. But that faded. It never disappeared, but it faded in the recent decades. And now, though, as we think about the future of mobility, the future of transportation, it's being reinvented right here in Michigan, in Detroit, and the buzz around it must have felt like the buzz around 1910, 1915, when our industry was getting up and running for the very first time. Very few industries and very few companies get second acts. Normally, there's a lifespan to them. They do well, and then they're in a long decline. I'm very hopeful that our company, our industry, and our city are all at the early stages of an amazing second act. So a lot of that history is yet to be written, and if we were talking in 3 or 4 years, we'd probably have a very different conversation. So with that, I just wanted to welcome you all to the show, to Detroit, and to a very different vibe than I think you've probably felt here before. And if there are any questions, I've got a couple minutes before I've got to go introduce our mayor panel, which is also kind of new for us. We've asked 4 mayors from around the country to come and talk about their cities and the challenges living in those cities and what we can do to help with those challenges. So, but for a couple minutes, I've got a few. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.